I've always wanted to be in a position where I could save someone's life and, protect them. I'm glad I was able to do that. We arrived to find Iraqi Defence Force troops pinned down by Daesh fighters, and we had to do something about it. I was shooter, my wingman was cover, and of course, sod's law, the aircraft had a bit of malfunction, and it wouldn't allow me to drop off the weapon. So I had to make a quick decision. I remember from one of my briefs, well, if you do this sort of switchery, a couple of switch button presses, then you'll be able to skip over that weapon and release the next one. I had 2 seconds to make this call, and luckily it was the right call, and I managed to get the weapon off, and it freed the Iraqis who were pinned down by Daesh fighters, so we saved a few lives in that instance there. My wingman was taking another 9 lines, so the next attack run, which was about 50 miles away, and from there he went into attack. I got in position, but unfortunately his weapon dudded, went into the building. It was just a puff of smoke. We were totally down on fuel, so we were right down to minimum fuel. So I had to make the call whether it was worth making this attack, and it really was, because IDF were pinned down, they were taking casualties, and we really felt the pressure and had to do something about it. So I made a call to the Voyager tanker crew, who were air-to-air refueling with, and bring them down a bit closer to us. And his next weapon worked without a problem, and he did a really successful attack. I do remember the attack controller who was on the ground, and he was so grateful of what we'd done, because he knew we were hanging on for as long as we could. It all started, I would say, when I was a wee nipper, and I was always infatuated with anything that went fast. And I always wanted to fly something. It wasn't necessarily jets to start with, but as my hunger for speed got more and more, then I found that I was always leaning towards always wanting to fly this thing, the Eurofighter Typhoon. And then I was about to start my flying training, where they then granted this sabbatical to ski for the Air Force. So at that point, I had to put the flying training on hold, but it was an amazing opportunity that the RAF had given me to try and compete at the Olympics and try and qualify there. I was nowhere near the form to qualify for the Olympics, so I just had to go for it and give it my all and hope that I achieved that. I did achieve it, which was just out of this world for me, my best ever result. And then sod's law, that's where I broke my leg about a month later. Not only had I lost my flying category to be a pilot, I had lost my spot in the Olympics. So I had to make sure that I just put everything into it, a very clear focus, and that was to re-qualify and then get my flying category back. I went through all that process to get back onto skis, got into the Olympics, had an incredible experience, then came back into flying training, got through elementary flying training, all went well, and then after that decided to treat myself to a wee holiday. I only remember about 20 minutes of the mountain bike trip, and the next thing I wake up in hospital. And what happened was the front suspension had collapsed on my mountain bike and just flung me into the ground. And it meant that I snapped my face across here, I snapped my nose, and I ripped my face apart. So there I was again, faced with this uncertainty of, oh no, I'm not going to be able to become a pilot. And that was my dream, was to be a Eurofighter Typhoon pilot. And it looked like it had been snatched away from me again. I was at RAF Valley and I was enjoying life. But it was the worst day of my life, by a long stretch, when I received a call from my dad telling me that my mum had committed suicide. It was completely out of the blue. I, or my sisters, my dad, we never expected it. We didn't ever think it was a possibility. When we look back, to me, it was just my mum. She was normal. That was her normal behaviour, but looking back over the years, she was definitely suffering from depression. My mum was a nurse for 35 years and a very strong person. But I always hark back to what I remember her telling me, which was when she was in a down place. And I said, Mum, I really want you to go and see someone because you're not yourself. And she said, but it would be too difficult for me. It would be almost too awkward for me to go and talk to the people I work with. So I've now made it my life's mission to try and combat that and to try and tackle that stigma and be very much open and honest about my story and about my beautiful mother. And I thought it'd be fine. And come on, sit. So I've been campaigning against the stigma attached to mental health. And I just want to be as open and honest as I can be to help other people be open and honest about what they're going through, or what other people they love, or even close friends, or even people they work with. We create an atmosphere where people can communicate and they can share their experiences, be it good ones or bad ones. Because we're all so busy running around, you know, in all sorts of walks of life, then that's why I think people can't really air the problems that they're suffering, and they bottle up and they don't get to communicate it properly, and that's what leads to further problems. And I think that's the crux, and that's what we need to try and address as a society. The way I've been campaigning for mental health awareness and trying to get the message out there is by using social media and spreading the word that way. And then of course I wrote the book, Speed of Sound, Sound of Mind, and all that money is now going to Heads Together. It's about £9,500 now. I really want to campaign as much as I can for as long as I can. I've made it my life's mission. When I received the Distinguished Flying Cross from Prince William, it was such a proud moment, and I'm glad I could do as well as I could in the time that mattered the most, which was over Iraq and supporting the IDF, so the Iraqis. But even more so because of all the campaigning that he's doing for mental health and everything he's saying for Heads Together, I found I totally relate to it, and it's just what I've been trying to say, although he's capturing a few more people. But at that moment where I shook hands with him, I did tell him about my mum, and he took that moment to tell me that my mum would be very proud. And it was very nice of him to realise how momentous that occasion was. I will continue to fight and continue to raise money and awareness for mental health and for Heads Together for a long time, because I truly, truly believe in it.